Long, long ago, after Adam and Eve had to leave the Garden of Eden, they started their lives outside and began to have children. And then their children had children, and their children had even more children. Soon there were people all around the world. But as people filled the earth, something else was spreading too: sin. People were choosing their own way instead of God's way. They were lying, fighting, and hurting each other, making the world a sad and dangerous place. Eventually things got so bad that God decided it was time to start over. Now, how would God do that? By picking one person who still tried to follow him, one person to help him rebuild the world. And that person was named Noah. Noah was a good man, a righteous man, which means he wanted to make good choices. Noah loved God and tried to live a good life, even though most people around him were ignoring God and doing what they wanted. Noah had spent his whole life listening to God, over 500 years. Yes, people lived a long time back then. Just imagine the candles on his birthday cake. One day, God spoke to Noah with a special plan. God said, "Noah, I want you to build a boat." Noah might have scratched his head because, well, boats were usually for water, and there was no water nearby. But God had a purpose. He explained, there's going to be a flood so big that it will cover everything. You'll need a boat big enough for your family and all the animals, too, of every kind. So God gave Noah detailed instructions on how to build the boat, or ark, as it's often called. Now, this ark wasn't just a little rowboat, it was huge. Building it took a very long time, many, many years. Noah's family helped him, and they probably got tired sometimes. They might have asked, "Dad, are we done yet?" But Noah stayed patient and determined because he trusted God. Some of Noah's neighbors laughed at him. They might have thought he was a little crazy, but Noah didn't mind because he wanted to follow God, even if others didn't understand. Finally, one day, something incredible happened. A raindrop fell from the sky, then another and another, until it was raining harder than anyone had ever seen. And then, just as God had promised, the animals started coming. There were elephants, lions, birds, and even tiny ants. Every type of creature made its way to the ark, 2 by 2. Noah and his family helped them all get onto the big boat, and once everyone was safely inside, God himself closed the door. Then the rain poured down. It came down harder and harder, and the water began to rise higher and higher until it covered the land. People who once laughed at Noah were probably wishing they had listened. The flood washed away all the sadness, hurt, and sin that had filled the world. But it was a very sad time because many people and creatures didn't make it. For 40 days and nights it rained without stopping, and Noah's ark floated on the water. And even after the rain stopped, Noah and his family stayed on the boat while they waited for the water to go down. They stayed on the ark for 150 days in total, almost half a year. Finally, the water began to go down, and the big boat came to rest on a mountain. They waited until the earth was dry again. When they finally stepped out, Noah, his family, and all the animals found themselves in a fresh, clean world. God had given them a new beginning, and he made a promise to them. He placed a rainbow in the sky and said, "This rainbow is my promise. I will never again flood the whole earth." So whenever we see a rainbow, we can remember that it's a sign of God's promise to protect us and to give us new beginnings. Noah and his family, along with all the animals, began their lives in this new world, trusting God as they started over. And that's the story of Noah's Ark, the story of how God gave the world a second chance.